It's 2025. Surely print on demand doesn't work anymore. After all, it was just a fad side hustle that died 4 years ago. Do you want to know the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
It might not be what you're hoping to hear, but it's better you know it than keep peddling an endless hamster wheel, hoping to sell one mug and make a total of 42 cents profit. Well, here you have it, the unfiltered truth about print on demand in 2025. Let's see how this gets received. The first and most blaringly obvious factor is print on demand is overrun with sellers. Yes, despite what people are saying, there's not that many people in it. There really is. There's a hell of a lot of people trying to succeed with this business model. But that doesn't matter. There's too many people trying to succeed with tons of business models. YouTube, Amazon FBA, social media marketing, drop shipping. Come on now. It's 2025. There's over 8 billion people on Earth. What business isn't going to be slightly oversaturated with sellers? Why is print on demand unique though? Why is the number of sellers irrelevant? Well, the simple answer is no matter how many people try to sell t-shirts with print on demand, there will always be significantly more people ready to buy. As I mentioned earlier, there's over 8 billion people on Earth. Almost every single person will own a t-shirt. Sure, not all will wear your wacky print on demand graphical t-shirt, but a t-shirt is a t-shirt at the end of the day. And if you create something good and put it in front of the right people, they will buy. To put it into perspective for you, in 2025, the t-shirt market worldwide amounted to $46.99 billion US dollars, and by 2029, it's estimated to grow to $52.61 billion US dollars. That's a hell of a lot of billions. Like a lot of billions. So you see, if there's just 10,000 print-on-demand sellers or 100,000 print-on-demand sellers, it really doesn't make a difference. Now let's bring these numbers a little closer to home from my personal experience in this business. I recently spoke to one of my students who is in the dog niche. We all know that's a very, very popular niche. And she was asking if it was silly and is there actually room for her? Now, her strategy was Shopify with Facebook ads. So we don't need to really worry or include people selling on Etsy or Amazon or any of those other platforms as her competition. Well, in the US alone, there's 65.1 million households that has at least one dog. 66% of all US households own one pet. And this is just America, by the way. Across the world, that number jumps to 33%. 1/3 of households globally own a dog. So I said to her, if you could just have 1% of the dog owners to buy your shirt, would you be happy? Well, yes, of course. That would be 651,000 customers. But that's quite a high percentage, considering you have a lot of other sellers also in this niche. So what about 0.1%? Well, that's 65,100 customers. And at $20 profit per t-shirt using a service like print on demand, well, that's around $1.3 million. Again, I think you would be happy. And that's if they only bought one item from you. And also, that's just 0.1% of dog owners, which is probably the most saturated market for t-shirts. Do you see why it doesn't matter? There is endless room for you to take part and even get some sales. Even at 0.01%, you would make a huge dent. And when you take into account multiple orders and repeat customers, you could earn a very healthy living only taking 0.01% of dog owners. And this, by the way, is just in the US. Does that put the number of customers into perspective for you? Do you still care about a little competition or oversaturation? I sure as hell hope you don't. After that realization, this student was a little blown away, seeing all these numbers in front of her and realizing the potential with building a brand, even in a niche that might seem oversaturated. But let's move on because we have more to dive into, and it's not all good news, unfortunately. The all-in-one websites that we see in people's videos all over YouTube, in forums like Reddit, and advertised all over the place. Platforms like TeePublic, Redbubble, Amazon Merch on Demand, and even Etsy for that matter, even though I know Etsy is not one of those like all-in-one platforms like we're thinking. Those are becoming harder and harder to compete year on year because your business is, well, ultimately controlled by the platform's algorithm. It's incredibly hard to scale, and when you have sellers come in and list tens of thousands of designs, Well, it's super hard to compete. They flood the market, and in a way, they manipulate the algorithm. And whilst these platforms were absolute killers a few years ago, they simply don't stack up as much anymore. In fact, if you look at anyone's revenue reports from 2024 to 2025 from Amazon Merch, you'll see a huge amount of people actually earned less. Now, I'm not saying these platforms don't work anymore. I'm saying these platforms are significantly harder to compete with now, and they're only getting harder while simultaneously paying you less and less. It's almost like having a job and you're told the more work you put in, the longer you spend at this company, the less we're going to pay you. Doesn't make any sense, right? Well, that's effectively what some of these companies have been doing with their commission. What I think is the future of print on demand is building a brand, building your own e-commerce store, whether you choose Shopify, WooCommerce, Fourth Wall, it really doesn't matter. Just ensuring that you have control over your business and what you're building is a real brand, not one-hit wonder designs. You'll really set yourself apart if you do this. And the good news is it's still early days for this method. 5 years from now, it might not be as lucrative. I don't know. No one knows. But right here, right now, this is when you've got to start this business model or forever regret that you didn't. So, as I said at the beginning, the truth in 2025. Well, a lot of people who want to start this model are unaware of a lot of things. How long will it take? How much will it cost? How difficult is it? Shortcuts and secrets you need to know to give yourself a leg up. So, let me spill everything for you. This model is building a brand selling t-shirts, hoodies, sweaters, tank tops, those kind of products on your website and a website of your choice. I chose Shopify, then advertising my niche focused designs via Facebook ads, Google ads, email marketing, and sometimes TikTok. But we don't rely on TikTok as we just don't know the stability of that platform in the US. But how much does it really cost? Because well, everyone thinks that this business model is super expensive. Well, all things considered, I'd recommend around $100 to get set up. With promotions like Shopify's current $3 trial, this setup could cost you more like $40, something around that ballpark. What you really need to consider that so many don't mention is the ongoing cost of marketing. Actually advertising your designs will cost you because, well, we don't have an algorithm to rely on. We need to do it ourselves, which actually, in my opinion, is a good thing because at least I'm in control of getting traffic to my products. I'm not relying on an algorithm to bless me with their traffic. Well, the good news is you don't need to spend a ton of money to make money and get the necessary data that you need to know what to do next. In fact, you can set up a weekend ad, not spending more than $100 and get some solid information on what designs are performing well or what mock-ups show potential. Now, in full transparency here, I'm not suggesting you're going to make money with this $100. At the beginning, it's all about testing the market, testing your designs, and gathering data to see what works. You really need to forget about making instant money. That is a pipe dream. And ironically, the more you chase that pipe dream, the more money that you actually end up wasting. You have to do this in a calculated manner. I usually recommend having around $1,000 for ads. This gives you a really good buffer to gather a ton of data, test a huge amount of designs, and ultimately find a few winners in your catalog. I am not recommending you start an ad and spend the $1,000 over the first weekend. Start very small. Remember, you don't need to spend a lot of money here to gather the necessary data needed to know what your next action should be. Now, the big question is 2025. So what apps do you really need for this business? There are so many apps out there, design tools, AI, research apps. It can rack up quite quickly and cost you a fortune. So what do you actually need? Well, if you're planning on making the designs yourself, you'll need some sort of design tool. Our go-to is Affinity Designer 2. It's a one-off small payment for lifetime access, and it's incredibly powerful. Think Illustrator, but more focused and significantly cheaper. You then have websites to get graphics. You could do AI, such as Mystic AI, which is pretty damn cool, or Midjourney. Both of them are low-cost options for graphics. And in terms of research tools, well, you have tools like Everbee and Allura and Pretty Merch. But honestly, these days, I just ignore all of them. I don't think that you need them. I think that you can very easily do research without any of these tools. You can base your decisions on whether a design is good or bad, whether it has reviews, whether it has a good ranking. Sure, you can use a tool, but you really don't need one for this. So all in all, tools could cost you less than $40 a month. And yes, there are other tools like Canva, Kittle, and Placeit, and many others, but again, I really don't think they're necessary. So despite what others may be saying or sponsoring, try and save your money. You don't need all the fancy tools. There's so much more to know, and you're more than welcome to check out my full 8-hour training video here on YouTube for free, or watch it in sections in my free community. This is your year. Remember that. Make it count. What are you going to do? It's the start of a new year. Are you going to sit back and watch it go by and watch other people succeed? Or are you going to attack it head on, make even a small dent, and be so happy that you did? Let me know in the comments what you're going to do.